The first thing I want to fix here is this status bar where right now it's not showing accurate numbers. So let's go ahead and fix that in our render function. At the bottom of the render function here, let's go ahead and get a reference to the status element, and let's update the text content for it so that it equals the following. It will read showing, and here we're going to want to show what is the number of visible items of what is the length of my tasks right now. So tasks.length, that should show us how many tasks that we currently have. Now, this was supposed to show me at least 3. I'm not sure why it's not rendering correctly, but that is okay. Let's actually open the inspector and see if there's any errors that are happening, which obviously, yes, our visible variable right now. Let me just hard code it to 0 or something. Visible equals 0. All right, now we see showing 0 out of 3. All right, so how do we start calculating how many items are currently visible? Obviously, right now we're seeing everything, including the completed items. So we're seeing 3 out of 3. So let's go ahead and do this right here. I'm gonna filter my tasks list such that if we have the show done only toggled on, that means I need to filter my tasks so it only show me the ones that are done. Otherwise, consider everything to pass the filter, and so everything should be part of my filtered visible tasks essentially here. If I hit save, we have this basically showing us object, which means we're not rendering this correctly. What I need to do is make sure that I am getting the length, not the array itself. Right now, we are seeing 3 out of 3. Excellent. Let me go ahead and toggle this on. So when I do that, obviously this number has not changed because it should say showing 2 of 3. That means that I need to go into my filter button, and at the bottom of it, I'll have to do exactly the same thing again. So let's go ahead and save it. Now, if I toggle this on, we are calling this filter function, and we're calculating how many visible items there are, and we're showing accurate numbers. All right, that's a good first step. Let's go ahead and fix our add function. So now when I hit add and I type in something, nothing is actually being added, but we know that behind the scene, we're actually updating our tasks array. So what we need to do after we've actually pushed the task into the tasks array is to do the same thing that we've done in our render function, which basically for each item, we had to do all of this snippet of code. So somewhere here, after we've added the task, we need to create a new element of the type list item. We'll make sure that we are capturing the done, the title, all of those values from the one that we just created. If I hit save, let's see if that works. Here's my new task, hit enter. Now it is being added to my list over here. Now, because I had to repeat this twice, a better idea will probably be to create a function, and let's call it add task to list. This will take a task as an argument or as an input, and it will do the following. So I pasted the same code that I copied from my for loop earlier. Let me go ahead and remove all of what we just added over here, and instead call add task to list, and let's provide the task as input. Now let's go ahead and do the same for our for each loop here. Instead of having to do this manually, let's just go ahead and call add task to list, where the task is going to be whatever the one we're getting from the for each function right here. Now, when the name of the thing that you're iterating over is the same as the argument that you're actually passing into your next function, a shorthand way to do the same thing is to do this. This here makes sure that for each task or for each item in the tasks, we're going to call this function by passing in whatever that item is onto the function. So if I hit save and we come back to our application, if I add a new task again and hit enter, here we go, it gets added to our list. But notice here, when I added this item, this status did not update again. So I guess at this point, we have to do the same thing that we did with the add task to list function, and create another function here called update status. And what this will do is that it will calculate whatever the visible items are in the task list right now and update the status element by showing that. Now, let me copy this function. Let me take off these two things here and call update status. We'll do the same thing. Where was the other place we did this? Right over here. So after we've iterated over our tasks, let's also update the status. And now at the end of my add event listener, let's also go ahead and update the status. Let's refresh and try it again. New task, hit enter. Here we go. We're updating our status as we're adding items to our task list here. If I toggle this on and off, this is working correctly as expected. Now, I wish I could say we're done here, but because we're doing this targeted DOM updates, we still have a long way to go. Let's find out what else can we do here. Now, if I hit the clear completed button here, you notice that my list updated, but the status has not updated. So let's go ahead to our clear button, event listener, and at the bottom of it, let's go ahead and call the function again. Let's see what we get. If I clear completed, all right, my status list is catching on. That looks great so far. Now, let me go ahead and refresh again. If I toggle this on and I uncheck one of those items, the expected behavior is that those items should go away from the list because I'm only trying to see the items that have been completed. So now we also need to go back into our code and find out where we're doing this event listener. So we also need to make sure that when this gets called, that we're also updating the list. We're honoring the configuration that we have here to only show us items that are done. So I'll go over to my add event listener. On the change of this toggle input, we want to add another check that basically says if we have the setting of only show, or what was it called? Show done only. If that was true, then I want you to also change the style of this item, specifically the display property, based on whether my task right now is done or not. So we'll say if task was done, then I want you to show it. Otherwise, it'll be none, basically meaning don't show it. Let's see what that looks like right now. If I toggle this on and I uncheck one of these, they should disappear. If I check the other one, it should also disappear. And oh my God, we also have to come over here and make sure that we're calling update status one more time. We save this. Let's try it. Toggle this on, uncheck, uncheck, and here we go. All right, we're getting there. Let's try it again with the add function. If I add another task and I hit OK, we've updated the status and everything is fine so far. Now let me toggle this on and let's go ahead and add another task again. If I hit OK, it's showing even though it is not done, which means it really should not be on this list over here. So for that, we have to go back to our add task to list. And part of what we do here is that when we create the list item, we want to make sure that the style or the display property of our style here is going to be none. And when do we do that? Only if we have the show done only property set to true. So let's reiterate what we've done here. When we create a new task or when we add a new task to our list element, we're creating the elements, we're updating the ID for it, we're updating the inner HTML for it, and then we check. If this is currently toggled on, then we make sure that the list style is off, basically saying don't show that new item that we just created. After that, we're adding the event listener, and part of the event listener is that we're also checking if this is on, then don't show the item, and finally update the status before you even append this to our list element. Let's see what that looks like right now. If I toggle this on, add item to the tasks, hit OK, technically has been added because this number has become 4 now, but it's still not showing on the UI. I'm not even going to try to test everything else because I'm sure we still have missed something here or there. This is very tedious because we're doing this targeted DOM elements. We have to define the behavior of every single element that we're adding to our HTML page. This can get very complex, very tedious, very messy real fast. So this is what the premise of React says. You have to declare what the UI would look like. You don't have to tell me how it would work. You just declare it as a function of the state. You tell me what the state should look like, and based on whatever the value of the state, I'm gonna calculate and figure out what the UI should look like. In the next video, we're gonna start by bootstrapping a React application, and we're gonna rebuild this application, hopefully with much less cognitive load on our brains here. You're gonna have a more predictable UI. You're not gonna have to think about what is my checklist for all the things that I have to update on the UI every time the state changes. So we'll go ahead and see you in the next video.